Good afternoon. The Sustainability Commission special meeting today is now called to order at 4:03 p.m. Will the recording secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Forrest, Commissioner Shea, Commissioner Noland, Commissioner Mohajer, Commissioner Skolstein, Vice Chair Allison,
Here.
Chair Basajian.
Here. At this time, if you're able, please rise and join Commissioner Forrest, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And I also wanted to welcome Commissioner Forrest to the commission. She joined us at the last meeting for the first time, but I just wanted to welcome her as a new member of the commission with the election of the new council member, Martinez. I'm going to ask the recording secretary, please provide information on how to participate in today's meeting.
To participate in today's meeting, members of the public who wish to speak in person may submit their name at the speaker kiosk located next to the recording secretary. Additional kiosks are available in the main lobby. Those who wish to participate virtually can do so via Zoom by entering meeting ID 160-393-1601 and passcode 512512. You may also dial in by calling 669-254-5252. and entering the same meeting ID and passcode. Those who wish to provide comments via Zoom are asked to enter the speaker queue by raising your hand electronically. The recording secretary will call your name during the public comment portion of the agenda. Those dialing in by telephone will be identified by the last 3 digits of their telephone number. We ask that you please state your name for the record. The time limits per speaker are noted in the posted agenda and are established based on the number of requests to speak submitted before the first speaker is called. Requests to speak submitted after the first speaker is called shall receive 90 seconds. Those who wish to comment on matter before the commission may do so by clicking e-comment on the Sustainability Commission agenda webpage at cityofirvine.org/Sustainability Commission. All comments will be provided to the commission as part of the meeting record and will be uploaded to the city website. Any e-comments received before, during, or after discussion of these items will still be included as part of the official record. For technical assistance with Zoom before or during the meeting, please call 949-724-6078. For any other questions and or concerns, please contact the Public Works and Sustainability Department at 949-724-7365.
Great, thank you. So before we consider the agenda tonight, or this afternoon, I'd like to ask that my commissioners, fellow commissioners, please limit comments to 5 minutes each. If necessary, we can hold additional rounds of discussion on each agenda item. And if that 5 minutes is up, I'd like to ask the recording secretary to call time when that time is up. So at this time, we will have public comment, which means that the commission will take public comment on items not listed on the agenda. Those participating by Zoom may now raise their hand electronically to enter the speaker queue. Any member of the public may address the Sustainability Commission on items within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on the agenda. However, no action on that matter can be taken that are not on the posted agenda. Recording secretary, are there any requests to speak on non-agendized items?
There are none, Chair.
Okay. As there are none, I'll ask my colleagues if they have any announcements they'd like to share. Okay. I think we have a big agenda item on the docket, so I think we're happy to move forward with the important items on the agenda. Acting Director Salazar, is there anything to report from the director?
And nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Used by this, but are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There are none at this time.
Okay, thank you. I think we heard the manager, you said that there's no additions or deletions. All right. The next item up is the consent calendar. At this time, we'll consider tonight's consent calendar, which is just the approval of the regular minutes for the meeting held on July 9th, 2025. It's now just time for discussion, if any, and to entertain a motion. Okay, I heard a motion from Commissioner Mohajer. Is there a second? Okay, Commissioner Shea seconds approval of the minutes, I guess. Is there any discussion? No. Please vote electronically now. I guess we're using electronic voting today. Thank you.
Motion passes 601 with Commissioner Noland absent.
Okay, great. Thank you all. There is one item of business this evening, and that is the adoption of the Irvine Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. Will the appropriate staff please introduce themselves and proceed with the presentation?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. Luis Estevez, Director of the Great Park. And it is my great pleasure to provide you with this presentation on the completed CAP document. With me today is Melissa Yu, our Sustainability Manager, as well as Hannah Kornfeld and Poonam Pabari, our consultants with Ascent Environmental, who work closely with our sustainability team on preparing the final CAP document, along with all the technical memorandums and reams of data that was analyzed, making this final report and action items the key ingredients in helping the city meet its greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. I especially want to call out our sustainability team, seated right behind me here. If it wasn't for their hard work, tenacity, and patience, we wouldn't be here today. So Celine Delafontaine, Ryan Tenney, Jocelyn Fitz, Phoebe Evans, all put in many, many hours of hard work, and they should be proud of this major accomplishment. I know I am. So to start off with some background information, the process to develop and adopt a climate action and adaptation plan began back in 2021, with the City Council gave staff the direction to develop Irvine's very own CAP. Over the past 4 years, the team has engaged in over 30 public engagements, soliciting input on the city's climate action activities from every corner of the community, which has resulted in developing and implementing achievable climate reduction goals. In addition, there have been numerous public policy discussions held with the City Council and Sustainability Commission, which has formed the basis of what we're presenting here this afternoon. It's important to note as we begin this discussion that the City Council has previously given policy direction with respect to how the CAP document would be implemented and limited its regulatory impacts to education and providing incentives to induce changes in behavior. The City Council did specifically did not want to adopt a CEQA certified document or make any provisions of contained herein as mandated regulations. The foundation of the CAP is built upon the city's community-wide GHG emissions profile. So using the 2019 as the baseline year, our total GHG emissions were estimated at approximately 2.2 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent, spread out across 5 different sectors. The largest contributors to citywide emissions in 2019 were land use and transportation, which accounted for about 51% of emissions, with building energy emissions coming in at 37% of all emissions. Solid waste emissions was a smaller slice of that pie at about 7%. Off-road vehicles and equipment, mostly construction equipment, was a small 3%. and water and wastewater production came in at about 2% of all emissions. With respect to forecasting emissions and identifying reduction targets, the shaded areas on this graph present an overview of forecasted emissions by sector. So as a result of existing state regulations and legislation, the city is expected to experience significant decreases in GHG emissions, despite anticipated population and economic growth. The city, however, is aiming for ambitious GHG reductions. The city has established reduction targets of 44% below 2019 emissions by the year 2030, and we would like to hit 90% below 2019 emission levels by 2040. So while the city's 2030 target is aligned with the state's 2030 target established by Senate Bill 32, the 2040 target was directed by the City Council as a policy decision and is more ambitious than the state's 2045 target established by Assembly Bill 1279. The dotted yellow line here on this graph shows how the city's GHG reduction targets compare to further expected GHG emission levels without additional local action. The difference between the top of the stacked wedges and the dotted yellow line show the GHG emissions gap that will need to be bridged to meet the city's targets. This gap can be made through strategies, measures, and actions included in this CAP document. To make progress towards the established GHG emissions reduction targets, the CAP presents a pathway for reducing GHG emissions and adapting to the impacts of climate change. The CAP includes strategies across 6 GHG reduction focus areas and 6 adaptation focus areas. Citywide adaptation studies are those that address multiple hazards or are considered cross-cutting, such as emergency preparedness. Individual specific action items for each reduction strategy were then developed, and then each action item, when taken in totality, will help the city meet its GHG reduction goals. In 2023, the City Council approved a scoring rubric that developed by staff and Ascent to score individual CAP action items in order to develop a priority scale that prioritizes the implementation of CAP action items according to those that have the greatest potential, providing the largest reductions in GHG emissions. Staff worked through that process with the Sustainability Commission, with the end result being the final list of 198 action items that will be adopted with this CAP document. So in terms of the cost of the city, the City Council previously requested that staff study and report back as part of the CAP adoption process the estimated costs to both the city and our residents and businesses to implement the CAP action items. And so we'll go through those right now. 2 types of financial analyses were completed. We looked at both the present value and the nominal value of the costs. So the present value, of course, representing the current value of a future sum of money or stream of cash flows, and applying a discounted future value of the money against the discounted inflation rate. So that's the standard approach that we utilize when estimating costs over a longer period of time. The nominal value represents the current cost or face value of an item or object without adjusting for inflation or discount rates. So it's essentially what is the cost based on the US dollar in 2025. And so really we wanted to do both. It's really the 2 ways of providing the same information, but we wanted to provide it for comparison purposes. Costs were estimated for the 15-year planning horizon of the CAP, with implementation starting in fiscal year 25-26 and ending with fiscal year 39-40. We evaluated the costs associated with adding additional city staff needed to implement and manage CAP action items, costs for added services and supplies, and costs for city capital improvement projects were included in these estimates. It's important to note that the cost to the city results are noted in present value. And additionally, there are a number of limitations that impact the results of this analysis. We do assume all costs rise at the rate of inflation. So we had to assume that it's just going to all rise equally at the same rate of inflation. It does not assume any technological or market advancements that may actually drive costs down. So we're just looking at it really a snapshot in time. It does not assume any incentives or financial support from outside resources. It does not also account for the existing staff capacity. So there is a possibility that we wouldn't have to hire as many staff if we were to somehow reorganize ourselves a little bit differently and be able to take on additional tasks without having to add additional costs, staffing costs. It also does not account for efficiencies gained between actions that are implemented by the same staff, as I just mentioned. And so some costs may already be included in the budgets as well, the city budget. We'll talk about that here in a moment. So the total cost to the city over the 15 plan horizon is estimated to be about $314 million, and it's noted here by expenditure category. The largest expense, or the expensive line item, of course, is the estimated cost for various capital improvements or capital purchases that the city may have to engage in, depending on what the project is that's being forwarded. The average cost comes in about $20.9 million a year. The estimate currently is about 25 total employees needed to manage the program at full build out, and that's assuming if we were to roll out all the cap measures at once. To provide some comparison and perspective, this slide shows how we kind of stack up to other cities or other agencies that have adopted cap plans. We do track very closely with the city of Elk Grove. We are a larger community. We have higher costs, but we're coming in about the same in terms of per capita costs. The plans noted for the county and the cities of San Diego come in at a much higher per capita cost as a result. It's important to note that we do already have some cap action items already budgeted for and in progress. The initiatives noted here on this slide are some great examples of those efforts being implemented, and the cap really is driven by council-approved action items that have been approved previously in the budget process. The Irvine Connect being a key one of those initiatives. The city did implement and has implemented continues to manage a zero-emission vehicle transition plan. I think just shy of about 10% of the city's fleet is now electric. The Jamboree Michelson pedestrian bridge that's currently under construction is another great example of a cap action in progress. The Urban Forest Master Plan is actually a specific item called out in the cap document that the council wanted to advance for a number of reasons. And then the Cool Pavement Initiative has been also a huge success. Our initial pilot project was incredibly successful in one of our residential neighborhoods. The parking lot outside here at the Civic Center received the same exact pavement treatment as well. We have noticed about a 10-degree reduction in heat during the peak summer as a result of using this particular material. So in addition to estimating the costs to the city, staff also estimated the cost to residents and businesses over the same 15-year planning horizon. There are some limitations to that in terms of being able to get as much data as we could to get as close to an estimate as possible, but not inclusive of all cap measures due to either data limitations or the fact that some anticipated costs would be borne by the city and partner agencies. There are costs are noted as incremental costs. It does exclude available incentives. So there are some incentives out there that the community can take advantage of to lower costs in pursuing these kinds of projects. And it also does not assume technological or market advancements that would help drive the costs down on some of these efforts. The cost analysis for the community included two parts: state regulation costs and the cap measure costs. So it's important to note that obviously with all the various state regulations we have out there, there are already costs that will be incurred by businesses and residents based on state mandates that are already in play. And so we really wanted, we didn't want to double count those costs. We wanted to separate them and show that this is a cost that, regardless if the city adopts a cap or not, will be a cost that the businesses and residents will have to incur due to state regulations. We kind of talked about, or we outlined it in terms of how additional costs are expected to occur with the implementation of a cap measures that go beyond the state regulation costs. And it compares the cap's legislative adjusted business as usual projections within the cap measures. This table here provides a quick snapshot in terms of a number of key action items that are most applicable to businesses and residents. It does provide a lot of detail, but it's really intended to highlight at a high level what has gone into this cost analysis, and the performance indicators for each measure are further detailed in the cost analysis report. Again, using both the present value and the nominal value methodology and totality, we're looking at total cumulative costs to residents and the business community, assuming that the council would adopt all of these action measures in the cap, would be about $4.1 billion, and that's in present value dollars. If you look at it in terms of the nominal value, it's about $4.8 billion. So in terms of the nominal and present value costs of these, the EV infrastructure accounts for the highest percentage of costs. The on-road transportation emissions, obviously, as they contribute 51% of emissions. So there's a high focus in reducing the number of gasoline-powered vehicles in operation in the city, helps drive down the GHG sources from that source. On the lower end, so in terms of breaking it down by the tonnage, on the lower end, the cost to the community is about $730 per ton. On the higher end, it's about $869 per ton. So it's pretty close in terms of the present and the nominal value of those costs. The staff did post the draft cap document for public review on the city's website a little over a month ago, and we've received a total of 27 comments from individuals in the community and 5 comments from various organizations. We have received the cutoff period was on Monday. We have received, I think, a couple more letters since then. And so copies of those letters and comments have been provided to the commission. The analysis of those comments are still being under review. They'll be finalized as part of the final presentation package to the city council. Of course, all those letters will be attached as part of the formal record, as part of the CAP document once it's adopted. As I noted earlier, staff conducted an extensive amount of public outreach over the past 4 years. Over 30 public workshops were held, multiple opportunities for stakeholders to provide input and have their questions answered. We received over 8,000 votes, opinions, and comments on our various online surveys of CAP actions and measures, excuse me. And so we did really reach out and touch almost every corner of this community and had some really good engagements with everyday residents as well as major companies. So the recommendations we're offering to the commission this evening or this afternoon is to recommend to the city council that they proceed with adopting the final climate action adaptation plan and proceed with its implementation. Of course, reaffirm the previously approved council prioritization of the CAP measures. That concludes our presentation this afternoon. We're available to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you so much. Would any commissioners, do they have any questions or comments at this time? Commissioner Mahajer. Yeah.
Hi. Good afternoon. Nice to see you. Oh, okay. Let's turn this one on. Nice to see you again. Thanks for your presentation. I was curious if you could tell me what constitutes a CEQA qualified map and why the CAP doesn't approve or authorize projects
You want to try
as within its scope.
The let me ask. Our team from the Senate could answer that better than I could, if we could.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we should be taking public comments
Oh.
for the discussion.
Thank you for keeping me on
Blame that on the
proper
chair.
order. Yeah. Are there any public comments at this time, Recording Secretary?
There is one in person, Chair. Let me call up Linda.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Linda Kramer. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Orange County Power Authority. Orange County Power Authority is proud to partner with the City of Irvine in advancing its climate action and adaptation plan toward carbon neutrality 90% by 2040. We're aligned with Irvine's vision of innovation-driven sustainability and community resilience. Our collaboration continues to demonstrate how local partnerships can accelerate meaningful climate progress. We look forward to deepening this relationship and supporting CAP implementation through renewable energy solutions and public engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any online comments?
There are none, Chair.
Okay, thank you, and sorry for the out of order. Please continue, Commissioner Mahajer.
Yeah, so my question was about if you could explain why the plan doesn't currently approve or authorize any projects, and what would constitute a CEQA qualified map?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Poonam Boparai, part of the consultant team with Ascent Environmental that helped the city team with the Climate Action Adaptation Plan. So a CEQA qualified climate action plan is identified in the state CEQA guidelines, so California Environmental Quality Act, and it has a set of criteria that a plan should meet in order to meet that qualification. City Council, as was noted in the presentation, did not authorize this plan to be prepared as a CEQA qualified CAP. And what a qualified plan does is it allows future development projects in the city of Irvine to essentially streamline their CEQA analysis. So they do not need to do individual project by project analysis as long as they can show consistency with the climate action plan. Does that answer your question?
Yes, so the answer is that the city council didn't authorize this to be a plan, but it considers CEQA qualified maps.
Correct. They, their direction was to proceed with a policy-based document, yes.
Does the city have any plans for implementing this plan? When I read the plan, I support it, but I think that there are some critics who might suggest that it's unenforceable, right? And what are our real world sort of plans to implement the CAP?
There will be a separate implementation plan once adopted, and that will essentially identify the sort of the time and place of when the various action measures or action items are brought forward. They'll be brought forward on an individual basis to the city council as part of the biannual budget preparation process. Council could also bring one forward outside of that process through the normal agendizing city council business. They could direct something to be added to the budget at any time, really. But that's the opportunity every 2 years as we prepare the capital improvement program budget, depending on funding availability, that we can start adding or requesting certain projects to be added to the budget so that we can advance them. But the implementation plan will spell that out.
Yep. For instance, the plan assumes major retrofit programs, for instance, beginning in January 2026. And it seems to me that we would need a retrofit ordinance in order to give that some teeth and accomplish that goal. So I understand that the implementation plan is separate, but I wanted to kind of express my interest in making the recommendation that there be ordinances that accompany this plan to make sure that the plan has teeth. I didn't see any specifics on EV infrastructure in the plan. Is there a plan to roll out, or is that a part of the implementation plan as well? Do you have a plan for EV infrastructure and how that'll work mechanically?
We do. We actually have a plan that we've been actively implementing, both as a public-private partnership as well as on individual projects. So with any new parking lot project that we look to build standard practices to provide plumbing at the very least for future EV builds. So that's what we're doing in the Great Park. And then slowly over time, we'll continue to add EV chargers. There is a larger plan that's dovetails into a solar plan as well. And so we've identified a number of parks, public parks throughout the city where we plan to continue installing EV chargers.
Thank you. My final kind of thought here, and I know my fellow commissioners will also have questions, is that In the same vein, the plan assumes all new electric construction starting in 2026. Is that right, for all new buildings?
It's something that we would encourage, but it would not be a mandate.
Right. I would hope that the council supports or entertains a reach code or ordinance to give that recommendation some teeth as well. Since I'm seeing in your presentation that as of 2019, land use and transportation and building energy were the largest emissions in the city of Irvine, right? So ordinances that support the provisions of the plan that I think have the most potential impact on those three would be something I would recommend to accompany the cap as we recommend this to the city council.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Hodger. Other comments? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Thank you, Commissioner. I had a few questions. I had read an earlier version of the cap, and I thought the timeline and the goals were different. Did the timeline or the target reductions change between the previous versions and the current version?
There was initially an initial goal that the city council had established to reach carbon neutrality by 2030. Once they went through some of that initial analysis, they realized that it was not financially feasible to do that. And so the goal was changed to meeting that or trying to achieve that goal by 2040.
Great, thank you for that clarification. I know, I think one of the maybe impetus for this meeting is that the city of Irvine decided to stay with the OCPA beyond the current timelines. And I know one of the issues that was raised was that there wasn't yet enough 100% renewable energy available for the city of Irvine to achieve some of these goals, I think, in that time frame that was originally set out. How confident are we now that those sources will be available at a reasonable cost for Irvine residents by 2030?
That's a great question. Right now, the tier that we're in will help support us to get to that. But energy markets change quickly at times, and so a few years from now, the energy markets might change and they might constrict a little bit. There might be less renewable sources, or there might be more available in the market. And so, again, that's the goal that we're trying to achieve. We're confident, assuming that we can maintain access to renewable energy sources, that we'll be able to meet those goals. But that will, of course, it's part of the process or part of the puzzle. The other pieces are these individual action items that, as council directs us to implement and provide funding for, that will go towards achieving those goals as well.
Thank you. I have one final question regarding the energy specifically. I recently attended a Cool Irvine event where I learned about some students presented on the increase in energy demand from AI usage. And the projected energy usage that they talked about was the numbers in the next 5 to 8 years is staggering. And there's some, I know if you've followed at all the markets, there's some crazy numbers about what energy usage might be required if it continues at this pace. I think something like ChatGPT's own power commitments would require something like the equivalent building of 17 nuclear power plants in the next 10 years or something like that. I'm concerned that the residents of Irvine would be competing with that sort of energy demand, and this plan assumes, it says no technological advancements that would reduce costs, but that might actually increase costs if we're competing with, not just AI, but other things that could increase energy usage. And I know recently we got an email that Edison bills are going up by like 13%. So it's not clear to me that even with the current kind of assumptions that we have, that we will be able to meet that, keep up with, or meet this plan in the timeframe set up, if, energy supply does not increase kind of commensurately. Have you had discussions about that and how that one might impact this timeline?
Specifically to that, no, we haven't. We understand that, yes, the energy consumption is growing, but through the use of automated systems and AI in particular. But part of that is trying to figure out how to break the logjam in Sacramento and the federal government with respect to getting permits issued for new renewable power plants and windmill farms and solar farms and things like that. There are a number of projects trying to get out of the bullpen and get their permits and get established in various areas. And so over time, we would expect to see more renewable energy coming onto the grid to help backfill that. But I guess the problem is they're really subject to the whims of the state government and federal government, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thanks. Vice Chair Allison.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation and all your work on the CAP so far. I just had a couple of comments and then a question or two. In reading through the CAP and the cost estimates, it seems like in general, going forward, we're going to be dealing with the impacts of climate change as a city, and many of the adaptation measures are fairly low costs, probably high benefit. So I just don't want to lose sight of the importance of pursuing those measures from the city perspective, for protecting our residents and having the most cost-effective strategies to deal with the climate impacts. Of course, the emissions reductions are critical as well for us to do our part in reducing the threats from climate change. I also wanted to comment that the CAP process will need to be revisited on some kind of timeline. There'll be ongoing efforts to put in implementation, but the CAP itself presumably will be under review every few years, every 5 years, something like that. So that would be good to include in planning the timeline for that. This is kind of a detail, but one of the tables in the community cost report had some different numbers for the OCPA basic choice rates. So just maybe to check that all those numbers are internally consistent, since that is, as was mentioned, a big part of our climate action planning in terms of electricity costs. So for the question, we've seen in our packet here some comments from the building and development industry, and they seem, concerned about the legal vulnerabilities of the city. And this is, of course, not a CEQA certified CAP, but the concern is even with that lack of certification, that the city would still be subject to lawsuits that might hold up housing development in the city where we really need more housing. So I just wonder if you could speak to or confirm that the approach the city is taking will not expose us to legal challenges under CEQA, given that we have these aspirational but ostensibly legally binding measures.
Yes, that is correct, that using a non-CEQA certified document will help prevent litigation. That was really the chief concern that the city council had, in that you could potentially tie up every project that comes forward to the city in litigation. If they fail to meet certain standards in the CAP, even after they're built, and if they don't perform as they were originally designed, that could subject the city to litigation as well. And so that was really the chief rationale behind leaving it as a recommended, an aspirational document, not a mandated regulatory document.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Any other comments by fellow commissioners? Commissioner Forrest.
Hi, I had a few questions. Regarding legal liability, if you're not CEQA qualified, I do believe that there have been litigations that have been settled in court for non-CEQA documents. I have one from Columbia Law School, and it was actually Climate Action Campaign against San Diego. So I can send that over to you guys. A couple other things that I'm new to this, so this draft I'm sure has been circulating for a while, but I'm really concerned about assuming the 100% enrollment in OCPA because just even and not to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm consider myself a Rhonda realist. In September at the city council meeting, I realize we're in basic choice, but the screenshot that I have here, we have a 75% enrollment in OCPA and 25% are not enrolled. And even in terms of our people that could choose to do 100%, we've only got about a 1.4% of our customer base, according to the screenshot, that have chosen 100%. So I'm concerned that we're over, we have to understand the public could choose it, but they're so far not choosing it enough, to my opinion, just to be accepting we have a lot of work to do. And your Appendix F, where you're projecting how we get to 2030 goals, is assuming 100%. It seems like we need to have some other schema, like, well, if we have today's enrollment and these sort of things, just because I want this to work, but I also have to be clear-eyed about what we face here as a city. So it'd be nice to maybe come up with some other models in terms of how do we get to those goals if we don't get 100%, which is, to me, seems at this point hard to come up with, from 1,000 people to 100% in 5 years. So that's I'm gonna leave there. Another thing I was thinking is, asking is, we've did the 2019 baseline, and have we done any assessments to look in 5 years from like 2024, how much progress have we actually made towards our goal?
Not to date. I think part of the implementation plan that will create a mechanism where we continue to take those snapshots. I don't know if we have if it's every 2 years, every 3 years, what the interval will be, but as part of the implementation plan, that's something that will be checked in on periodically in terms of how well we're doing to meet that goal.
Because, yeah, I was thinking, just as a scientist, if you had a baseline and then you have a midpoint, you can see how far we've come or where we need to work. Do you understand what I'm asking? Because it's some kind of metric in terms of the good things we're doing, the things we need to work on, and places we may need to change or that sort of thing. And lastly, I know that there's lots of federal laws that are being, I think, upended is the nicest way I can put this. So have you been sort of toggling to try to, I mean, it's a lot to keep up with, I'm sure, but that may also impact our goals. Is there any kind of tracking of that?
Not formally tracking, but it is something we do discuss regularly. One of the key issues that we've talked about recently is the loss of the incentives for solar systems or tax credits for EVs as well. Those kinds of things help encourage and incentivize those kinds of changes and improvements. And unfortunately, what's happening now on the federal level, it is impacting it. I can't tell you at this point if they're selling fewer solar panels and fewer EVs at this point, but I suspect that that will become apparent here in the next few months as now that all of these incentives have expired and they have not been renewed. But yes, that is a concern for us. Tariffs are another concern as well. In many cases, that has upended the financials on a lot of solar projects as well, making them financially infeasible any longer. And so that's something that we have to track very closely on as well.
One more comment. Recently, like the 2024 power content labels came out from OCPA and from SCE. And so I know that last year we were in mostly renewables, but this year we're going to be in basic choice as a city. And I just am very concerned that for those few years we're in basic choice that we have really healthy air because it matters. But it looks like unfortunately the OCPA from 2024 was quite high in terms of greenhouse gases. And just, I have the copies here, which I'll share, but the greenhouse gas intensity under basic choice in 2024 was 942. And for OCPA and in Southern California, Edison is 515. So it does affect, I know we're in this for 2 more years, or 25, 26. So we won't know till October of next year how much greenhouse gases we've been, what the values will be. So I just wanted to raise that issue. And I think that's basically it.
Thank you, Commissioner Forrest. And before we go on, there's so much expertise on this commission, so many good points. And I don't think we're going to get them. I mean, it'd be great to have them in some formal written document, because as they come out here, I'm sure there's notes and a recording of this meeting. But I would actually encourage my fellow commissioners to communicate with staff any of their thoughts about the climate action adaptation plan, even if they're not part of the CAP that we are looking at today. We're still going to go through implementation, and also, this is not something that's decided on today. It's a lifelong project, sustainability and climate action. So I think, anyway, I'd love to see these things written out, if you can communicate them to the staff, and maybe they could collate what we've thought of here today in response to the CAP that we've seen. So anyway, any other comments from commissioners, fellow commissioners? Sure, Commissioner Jay.
I just had one more comment that's a little tangential. With regards to wildfire risk, I'd looked over some of the adaptation measures that specifically around that. And I know there's some areas in Irvine that it's difficult to get home insurance because of the risk of wildfires. I didn't see anything mentioned of maybe like measures that the city could take to assist in that. And yeah, I think that's probably only going to get worse with climate change. Is there a role that the city can play in helping homeowners get home insurance in those areas without having to turn to like FAIR or whatever?
I think we can help to the extent that we can mitigate the fire danger from our side of the fence, the property line, essentially. We do have a really robust wild land management program here. We've got staff dedicated and really well-rounded and talented staff that understand wildfire behavior, how to manage wildlands in partnership with the Irvine Ranch Conservancy. And we have regular, robust annual inspections with our partners at OCFA, and they go through all of those particular neighborhoods and all those high fire risk areas, really looking at making sure that we're maintaining those properties in a way that helps mitigate the amount of fire risk that's out there. And you may have heard recently, the city's been a leader in developing construction standards and development codes that are designed to really harden properties against fire risk. And so things like reinforced walls along property lines that interface with the wildland area that act basically as heat shields, how roof lines are designed using non-combustible materials. So I think all of those things kind of taken into account together, I think it goes a long way in helping reduce and mitigate fire risk, and which should be noted by the fire insurance insurers as well. And so that's something that we do promote. I'd have to check with our team in the community development department to see if they, what kind of reporting they might do every year to the insurance services office. And but that's a great point in that we do our part, especially to make sure that we mitigate that fire risk every year. So that's just an ongoing process. You may have, earlier this year, we took out a herd of goats up to Turtle Ridge, and they worked out great. They were able to access locations that are very steep that you can't get equipment into, especially if it's the ground is very rocky. You can't use your traditional equipment on there. So that's where the goats come in to do that. So that's just another example of the city's efforts to mitigating fire risk.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anyone, any other comments from fellow commissioners? Vice Chair Allison.
Yeah, I've looked at the cost analysis, especially the community cost analysis, and $4 billion is a big number. But I was curious of what that translates into kind of on a day-to-day basis. And while it's certainly not trivial, it is a expense. But if you kind of break it out to per resident per month, it's $67, which is kind of like a couple dollars a day. Again, not trivial for especially our lower income residents, but that analysis, does not include any benefits that come from those investments, such as reduced energy costs due to increased efficiency. Some of those costs will be shared with the business community, and there may be in some other future era more state and federal support to offset some of that. So I was actually pleasantly surprised by the kind of feasibility of that number. And so again, with some offsetting benefits, it seems like a doable plan over 15 years. So for what it's worth, the costs are substantial, but they're maybe manageable. And the question I wanted to pose for the staff is, as we're going about thinking about implementation and even refining this plan, what is going to be the plan for staffing and hiring? You talked about 25 FTE in the city. Is that going to be, that would be a substantial number of staff to kind of manage and coordinate. And of course, these require coordination across sectors and departments. So, has the city thought about that? Have you thought about that in public works and sustainability? What's the plan for staffing and hiring so we're ready to embark on this really complex challenge?
That's a great question. I appreciate it. Yes, we have. Part of that calculation is as we develop the implementation plan, that is something that's at the forefront of our thoughts in terms of, okay, if we're going to launch this particular program, the first question we're going to ask is there existing staff capacity to handle that program, the additional workload? And that could also mean that rebalancing workloads as well. We want to be strategic and careful when we do add staff because of the costs involved with that. And so that is something that's going to factor into those calculations as we present these projects to the council in the future as part of CIP projects or the operating budget every 2 years. that's typically something that is analyzed and then considered by our finance department, city manager's office as well. Those positions have to compete with other needs in the community as well. And so there might be a need for additional police officers that may outweigh the need for additional sustainability staff, as an example. So it's not to cast just a blanket statement that, yes, we're going to have to add these positions, that we're going to have to be strategic about it, methodical, and to the greatest extent possible, be able to absorb the work with the existing staffing leads, but knowing that at some point we may need to add additional staff if staff or if the council continues to direct us to continue to expand and add the number of projects into the budget and actively working on.
Thank you. Any other comments from fellow commissioners? Okay, if not, I'll make a couple.
One
Go ahead.
quick question. With all the legal issues, I'm not an attorney, but it looks like both sides might be adversarial. So are you having an environmental legal team review it? I know, 40% of cities have these, so there should be a fairly wholesome data set of who gets sued for what, but I don't want to, have you kind of check some of those boxes to avoid litigation?
Good question, Commissioner Forrest. Actually, prior to bringing this to council, when we wanted to decide whether we were going to go CEQA certified or not, we did look at various cities and what cap they did have. And for instance, the one that you brought up, San Diego actually was CEQA certified cap. And then it ended up that was actually one of our prime examples and kind of what we brought up to council and the prior sustainability commission. So that kind of deterred us, where we are at, but we did look at various cities, what was CEQA certified, what was not. I actually had my team do a survey of all the cities within California. I'm sure that number has changed since the last time when I first started, but we did look at all those numbers at that time and looking at the legal. So that San Diego one was actually a kind of a big thing. So that kind of put us in the other direction of maybe it's better for us not to be CEQA certified at that time and to avoid those litigation.
Okay, I misunderstood what that chart said then, but
Okay.
yeah, it just seems like it seems like all the cities should have a database of who sued them and for what, so you don't fall into those traps if you can avoid it. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Forrest. All right, if there's no other comments, I just wanted to iterate my own. Along the lines of wildfire readiness and preparedness, I could have included this in announcements, but there is the mayor's office and the OC Fire Authority is having a wildfire ready Irvine meeting in town hall here at City Hall on October 30th about protecting our homes and community. It's at 6 p.m. on a Thursday, October 30th, so just before Halloween. I think that it's a good way to see what the city's doing, what the county's thinking about preparedness. And these days, wildfires, of course, are great concern all over California, including Irvine. So I wanted to I've been on this commission since before it was a commission as a Green Ribbon Committee, and some other of us have been too. I want to kind of look back back on December 30th, 2020, the mayor at the time had posted on social media that a climate action plan had been created and implemented to protect our environment. And I don't point that out to just point fingers, but to really let us know that even with this council, the council implementing or adopting this climate action plan, the work isn't done. There's going to be an implementation plan, a prioritization plan, and all sorts of details to be worked out, which I'm looking forward to do with the staff and our fellow commissioners. It is to me, a living document. So even if there's some parts that are not getting to where we want to be, like 100% renewable with our electricity, at least for right now, how we can get there, work with OCPA to make that happen. I'm looking forward to this being a dynamic process, even after we adopt the climate action and adaptation plan. I really like the plan. It's got some very good goals at a 90% reduction by 2040 from 2019 levels. That's a realistic plan, and it's consistent or aligns with San Diego is aiming for net zero by 2035, and Santa Monica, for example, has a 2040 goal as well. I like that there's equity in the plan, ensuring benefits or reach vulnerable communities, like outreach in many languages, apparently 8 languages. It does, there are details that are not existent, so that'd be great to have, and this is it could be happening after implementation and prioritization happens. It'd be great to have wedge diagrams. So there's wedge diagrams of each strategic program. But within those programs, it'd be great to break down further as to what actions lead directly to which reduction by what date. So these kinds of wedge diagrams are, as a data nerd, I love them. And I think they actually tell you how we're getting from A to B given different things, which when you start doing prioritization, which wedge is the one that is easiest or most implementable for the greatest outcome. Yeah, so a couple other things. I know this is not a CEQA qualified cap. The council just decided to not make it that. However, that doesn't mean that we can't, as a city, adopt ordinances or measures to make it more enforceable, whatever the city plans to do with the future implementations. So I do, however we do that, I would recommend that the city does put teeth, as Commissioner Mahajer argued, and I concur wholeheartedly, that it would be great to have an implementation plan that has teeth behind it when necessary. I am also concerned, as Commissioner Forrest pointed out, about the OCPA enrollment at 1.4% or wherever it is now, to get that to a much higher fraction to achieve that reduction. So in my view, there's kind of 3 big buckets of carbon emissions as residents and businesses. There's what the source of our electricity is. There is what the source of our heating and cooking energy is in our homes and businesses, which is largely natural gas still. And then transportation. So that 1/3 kind of electricity is in some ways the easiest, because if you just say, I'm going to buy my electricity from a solar and wind farm, you've kind of done that. But we got to get there. And I think one of the easiest way to do that is to incentivize it with dollars. If we have green energy that is cheaper, that is the best way to get people to switch over. I agree with the Climate Action Campaign in their goal, and we've talked about this before, either as a commission or Green Ribbon Committee, with building retrofits. It'd be great to have that as a fleshed out in more detail. It's there in the plan, but to flesh that out in terms of implementation, how to get a retrofit ordinance or program in place would be really very important, because that's that second bucket of emissions from natural gas heating and cooking in businesses and residents. And then I do agree we need to get to all new construction. UCI, all new electric construction, or all electric new construction. The UCI has been a leader in all-electric construction. We've got some townhomes going in or have been going in. They're all electric. And the latest development at University Hills. We also had a hospital and medical complex that's going in right now here in the city of Irvine. That's all electric, the first of its kind nationally, that it, like, you've got autoclaves, all sorts of medical stuff going on that don't need to use natural gas for heating. It's quite an achievement. And I think, you know, UCI leads in Irvine, the city should also lead in getting to all electric new construction. How that happens, I know, is a legal challenge, but I think we should strive for that as we move forward with implementation. And then there's kind of two other things that I want to close off with that are kind of stuff that I've talked about for a while as well myself, that are like a win-win for everybody. So solar plus battery storage, as folks may know or may not know, is a very financially good move for residents and businesses. Electricity, as we've all seen from our bills, and now it's going up by 13%, as Commissioner Shea pointed out, is very expensive. Electricity is very expensive in California. And if you're able to produce and store your own energy, you can beat the market locally. And the scale of which you can do it, from estimates in the past year or so that I've gotten from solar providers, solar and battery providers, for typical residents, you save $100,000 over 20 years in electricity costs. That was from estimates then. With the AI and all that infrastructure coming in, you're probably going to save more than that. $100,000 per resident, single-family home is substantial. It's substantial for anyone. And we have about 100,000 single-family homes of order in the city of Irvine. We're looking at a $10 billion benefit to city of Irvine residents, which is just a crazy number for anybody, even billionaires. So I'd really like to see, as this implementation moves forward, to see if the city can incentivize or help residents get to that point where they're basically producing and storing their own energy. Unfortunately, that kind of is the electricity energy providers don't like this because they're not selling you electricity. But that's a good thing about OCPA. They are not shareholder owned. They are a partner that would want to help residents get to the greenest possible solution. So I think we could partner with OCPA on that if possible. And another related thing, this is why I brought it up as well, is that EV charging is another thing that's a win-win for everyone. The fast EV chargers in the city, I'm told, I don't use them, but I've learned, are very much in demand. And there's waits for them. There's some of them that have incentives from car makers, so those particular brands are very much desired, and there's waits for them. The city could actually make money by installing these kinds of EV chargers in city parks, and not only the Great Park, but we have a lot of parks all over the city. The parks are where people live. The cars are where the EVs are where people live. I think it'd be great to look into expanding our EV charger infrastructure as a city by partnering with either putting in our own or doing a public-private partnership where we bring in private companies' chargers onto our public parks. But there's a big win there because, as folks with EVs know, those are expensive charging stations. But being able to expand the good options for them is a good thing. So I think that's all my comments. So thanks. I see that Commissioner Skolsding had raised his hand in the meantime while I was yapping. Thanks.
No.
Go ahead.
No, I love it. I love hearing everybody's feedback. And, first off, I just want to say thank you to, the commission and the city staff for putting all the work. You guys have been doing this for a few years now. I'm the new guy. I've been here for less than a year, but in that time, I've learned a lot. You've given me a lot of education, given me a lot of awareness, And I've also been able to witness some of the stuff you've implemented already. I use bikes a lot. I run a lot. I do care about our environment, you know, so it's been cool to see the Irvine Connect do its thing as I go around and cycle around the city. I've seen zero emission vehicles. I was at the Great Park yesterday, and I see us utilizing Ford Lightnings, which I love. Very, very fun vehicles. And I've been able to see the cool pavement initiative too as well as I go around and put my footprints all over the city. One of the reasons why I became a commissioner was to, or is to, you know, protect the quality of life for our residents, you know, and business owners and everybody within it. And, you know, as I see some of these letters and stuff like that are being submitted and whatnot, definitely a big concern is, you know, can they afford this in the event that, you know, it may impact them in a negative way? I think it's pretty safe to say that everybody wants the city or our country or world to be much more sustainable. But definitely, we should definitely put in focus and educate our local business owners, our residents, our visitors on if it will impact them in a negative way financially, process-wise. We live in a world right now where even in business, it's really, really tough. Margins are very, very slim. I'm a local business owner myself, and I would love to, not just me, but, you know, people like me, especially people out there that aren't familiar with what we're talking about right now that may be listening on how it may affect them and may drive them out of business. You know, I have some neighbors that have been homeowners since the 70s, and, you know, will some of these things price them out, especially if they're on a fixed income? You know, these are just questions I have. But I did want to confirm some things just so for some of the people out there listening or other people that may have questions in the public, just to confirm, we are only recommending this to the city council. So nothing's being implemented. And even as it goes to the city council, I also wanted to confirm that this is merely a game plan, roadmap, strategy that the city can follow and how much it costs and how we're going to do that to attain our sustainability goals. Just wanted to confirm that for everybody out there that are listening. They're like, if this passes, is all this going to happen right now? We have no choice. So I just wanted a confirmation on that, just for, you know, people that are not familiar with the terminology that we're speaking about and whatnot during these meetings.
It's a great point. Thank you, Commissioner Skolsdang. Yes, this is all voluntary. At this time, there are no mandates, and council has not indicated that it's going to go down that path at this point.
Okay. Any further comments from my colleagues? Okay. So I guess our recommended action from the staff is that we recommend for the city council to adopt this final draft of the city's climate action and adaptation plan and proceed with its implementation. And a second thing that the staff recommends is to reaffirm the previously approved city council prioritization of CAP actions and measures. So do we have a motion along these lines? I think I saw.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw Ron first.
Yeah.
Though he couldn't get the mic on. So I'll take Commissioner Skolsdang moved and
I'll second.
Commissioner Allison second. Okay, please vote electronically now.
Motion passes 601 with Commissioner Nolan absent.
Excellent. I think we've seen so much of this, just my closing thoughts. We've seen so much of the CAP in the past 2 years that I'm glad that it's
I
implemented.
think there may be a second part to the motion.
Is there?
Recommendation on the
Well,
agenda?
I was taking there to be both actions at once. Is that okay, recording secretary?
I'm sorry.
Were you saying
I
if
don't
there's a
object
second
to that. I
motion?
just wanted to, point of order, I suppose. Did
So-
we just to take a vote on both items?
I took a vote on both items.
Okay, very well.
Was that the
Yes.
the motion? There's intent.
I have no objection.
That was Commissioner Skolsdang. I said, is there a motion to take the recommended actions?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was a single motion, which I think we can do. Okay, and that was the seconders too, so I don't think there's any issues. So as I was saying, yeah, I'm glad that this has actually happened. I think it's a benchmark and a milestone for the city to have for the Sustainability Commission to recommend this cap. Being no further business before this commission, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
The Sustainability Commission is now officially adjourned at 5:18 p.m. Thank you.